everybody, Brian from Cabinet Joint here. I am in our new shop here at Gettysburg Shop at Rock Creek, where we do cabinet assemblies, and we're going to be talking in this video about some steps that have to be taken if you're doing inset cabinetry. Before you actually build an inset box, you need to do some fit up that's much more easy to do when your cabinet's unassembled than if you try to do it after the box is built. Primarily what I'm referring to is we have the front frame. I'm building a base 18. I have a base 18 frame, and here you can see the cabinet grooving on the back. What we're going to be doing is putting some inset brackets to carry our inset drawer glides on the back of the front frame. And we're also going to be putting the door brackets for mounting our door hinges on the back of the front frame. So we want to show you that operation. The other thing we're going to be showing is on your cabinet back. This is the back for the same cabinet. We have these angle brackets that are going to mount to the pre-drilled pilot holes that come from Conestoga already done for you. We're going to show you how these brackets go on. And you'll really thank us later, because when you build the cabinet, now all you have to do is slide the drawer track in and mount it the way our drawer glide installation video shows. So make sure you do this. You'll hate yourself if you build all your boxes and then have to come back and put your hinge brackets and your drawer glide brackets on. So let's get to it. Okay, so let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is walk you through the tools and supplies you're going to need. I've got a couple of drills. You can use one. We have two set up for each individual operation. You need a Phillips head bit, and you need a 3/32 drill bit, okay? And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that amount sticking out in a moment. It's pretty critical with some of these things so you don't drill through the front of the front frame. I've got a couple of different ways we can show you how to put these inset mounting brackets for the doors on. I'll get to that in a minute, but I've got a jig here, and I've got one we just made, and you can also just use a tape measure. I'll walk you through all of that in a moment. The main supplies you need out of your larger Conestoga order that came in is some hardware pieces. You're going to have packs of drawer glides, and in these drawer glide packs you have the glides themselves, you have two angle brackets, which is what you'll want to take out, you have a whole bunch of screws, and you have orange brackets. What I want you to grab out of that pack for this operation is just the two angle brackets, and there's, I believe, 6 smaller flat-headed screws. Look like this. I'll get a close-up of that for you, but these screws, you need 6 of those, 3 for each bracket, okay? I have mine already sorted in a cup here. You're also going to have in your hardware pack these beige mounting brackets. They're called Tentex brackets from Blum. And inside those you have 2 of the brackets themselves. You want those. You have 2 little machine screws that actually are used to hold the drawer glide to that bracket. So you want your 2 machine screws. And there's 4 kind of bronze colored Phillips head screws. You want those 4 screws. You're also going to find 4 silver screws. We do not use those. You can throw those away or save them for something else. We do not use those. Once you've got your hardware ready, what we're going to do first is the mounting brackets for the hinges. So that's what these are, okay? So your hinge brackets come inside your hinge pack. Your hinge pack has the hinge themselves that go on the door. We're not going to use those yet. And you're going to have the 2 brackets I just showed you and a bunch of screws. What I want for this operation is these brackets, and I want the 4 larger, kind of a round-headed Phillips screw. This is the 4 biggest screws in this bag. You want those 4 screws. If you've watched our startup videos, you should have by now, when we talk about how to organize your hardware, we typically go through and open all of our hardware up, glides and hinges and these Tentex brackets, and we sort all of our hardware into cups so I know what I'm grabbing. Feel free to do that. You don't have to do bag at a time. You can open up all your hardware and get everything ready. So I'm going to set my bag of hardware off to the side, and now all I've got is my hinge operation and my drawer glide operation and my back bracket operation. And I'll put those screws over there. The other thing I've got here is my quote. So you've worked through your quote with your cabinet coach, and on that quote I'm working on a certain cabinet. I've identified it as a base 18, and what I'm looking for on this is a single door cabinet. So it's very critical I understand what side are the hinges going to be on. This document tells me it's a hinge right. So as I face the cabinet, I'm going to hold this up real quick. You're facing the cabinet. I want the hinges on this side. So I'm going to lay this down, and that's the side I want to hinge. Okay, there's 3 ways to do this. There's an expensive way, there is a less expensive way, and there's the free way. The most expensive way is to go online. You can get them on Amazon. Order a Blum PlateMate Jig. They're about $100. They come to you with screws that you cannot use. You have to go to the hardware store and replace these with a longer machine screw because the factory screw isn't long enough to give you the centering that you need for these particular cabinets. It's not a Blum issue, it's not a Conestoga issue, they just didn't give you a long enough screw. So we replaced our screws and we use this jig. This is what we use in the shop. We love it. If you're building one kitchen, it may not be worth it to you, in which case you can take a piece of angled molding, just an L-shaped molding, and buy it at Lowe's. Make it 6 1/4 inches long, end to end, and then drill 2 holes, and the holes are 2 3/4 into the first hole, 2 1/4 inches into the, 2.5 inches into the first hole. So 2.5, 2 3/4, and it's about 3/32 from the edge. Drill 2 holes, boom, boom, and now that acts as your locator. You can use it for top or bottom, it doesn't matter, that acts as your locator. The third option, which costs you nothing and no time, is just measure. Put the tape measure right at the bottom of the opening, measure 3 1/8 and strike a line, and you can use that as your center point for the jig, okay, or for the bracket. I'm going to use this because most of our customers who are doing full kitchens tend to want to order these. It's got a little arm on it that will actually crimp the front frame in that aperture, so what I'm going to do is slide it on. I slide my screw all the way down and clamp it, and what I want to make sure is I have both these screws screwed to the point where when I measure from the front frame to the dead center, there's a little groove right here, to the dead center of that PlateMate jig should be 3 1/8. It's the same 3 1/8 I just measured with my tape measure. So now all I have to do is take my drill, and this is where this depth comes in critical. You either have to set this drill depth to the point where when I run this all the way through and bottom out the drill, it doesn't come through the front of the frame. If you just leave a lot of drill sticking out, you can accidentally go all the way through. You want to back this thing off and it will not let me go too deep, okay? If you don't have the ability to do that, run a piece of masking tape or duct tape around it to act as a visual. You're like, okay, I don't want to go past the edge of the tape. I've got my collar set. So what we're going to do is, the reason I like this Blum bracket is, or this jig, is because these little holes have a ferrule in them that are metal, so it won't hollow out as I use it over and over again, and it's at the proper angle. This hole does not go straight in. It's got a slight taper to it. So this holds my drill bit at the proper angle. This is why I like this jig so much. So I just set my drill in there. 2 holes. I uncrimp my bracket, slide it to the end. Make sure I'm bottomed out, same thing. Now had I used this jig, that lines up with the same 2 holes, same exact thing, I'm just using this, and if you do the 6 1/4 inches long, it will work for either end of the front frame. And if I'm doing it the measuring way, there is a little hole in the dead center of this bracket, and I just line that up so that that hole, I can now see my pencil line in that hole, and I can see these 2 holes perfectly. So all I'm going to do now is grab my 4 screws, take my Phillips head bit. You're going to hear a lot of ratcheting. That's not the screw stripping, that's the impact driver. It's a great drill for this. Put both of those in till it's tight and my bracket's on good. I'm going to go ahead and do the second bracket and come back on screen. Okay, so now you can see I've got my 2 hinge brackets on, ready to receive the door when the time comes. And you can see why. If this was a shallow cabinet and you had to put these on after the cabinet's built, you can't even get a screw gun back there. So that's so critical to put these on before you start sliding your cabinet panels in. Now we're working on, because this is a base cabinet, I have a drawer opening and a door opening. These brackets mount to the back side of the front frame and carry the drawer glide, because on inset, the drawer glide no longer sits on the front frame, it's back inside the cabinet. If you don't have these brackets, you're forced to like flush out the cabinet side with the front frame to carry the glide. So Blum did us all a very big favor by offering these brackets. So there's 2 of them. There's a little shoulder right here, and we'll get a close-up of that for you in a separate screen. That shoulder runs right down to the bottom of the opening. You can't make it be wrong. Just run it down till it stops. Now I take my 2 of my bronze screws, and there's 2 deep holes, and there's 2 holes way down inside of here. That's where those silver screws would have gone. We don't use those. We use these big screws. We drop them in the hole. Make sure I'm run all the way down into the corner, and I grab my Phillips bit. And these screws use like a little you can see, it's like a little groove or a slot in the tip. It's a self-drilling screw. You do not need to pre-drill these holes. You won't split the frame, you're fine. So I'm just going to do the same thing on this side. Run my 2 screws in there. Make sure they're on nice and tight. So now I've prepped this cabinet frame for both door glides and doors. I can set the frame off to the side. I'm just going to push that out of my way. And now I want to move to the cabinet back. I'm going to stand this upright real quick. Not sure if the camera will show it, but you'll see it on your cabinet back. Conestoga, if it's a standard cabinet box and wasn't like a custom front frame with an odd configuration, this is just a normal base 18, Conestoga pre-locates the brackets that carry the back of the glide. We just took care of the front of the glide in the frame. The back of the glide lands on these 2 brackets, and they've given you the locator holes for that on the cabinet back. Very easy. So I'm going to lay this back down. I'm going to grab 4, 5, 6 of these smaller screws that came inside that glide pack I told you about. I get my 2 brackets, and you can see there's a series of holes, and then you have the longer leg of this L has the 2 slides, or the 2 slots where the slide will go on. That's a separate video you can watch to see how the glide actually goes in. All I care about is making sure those holes go down, and there's 2 elongated slots. Each of those 2 holes center on those 2 elongated slots. So I just locate it directly on those 2 holes. I put a screw in each of the slots. And then there's 10 other holes you can use. Just pick any one you prefer, it doesn't really matter. And put the 3rd screw in one of those. Those 2 first holes will do it, but because they're elongated, the bracket can go up and down if they get loose, so the 3rd one just anchors it, okay? Do the same thing on that bracket, which I'll do off screen, and then we'll come back and show you all of this all finished up. Okay, everybody, there's your operation. So now, when I go to build this cabinet, left and right side go in, top and bottom go in, cabinet back goes on, and when my cabinet back goes on, I now have a complete box built and ready to receive my drawer glides. Very, very fast way to do inset, and then when you get to the door part, literally they just clip right on to these hinges. Snap, 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 snap. You can go through the whole kitchen and fit it up very quickly. So don't forget to put these brackets on. If you have a problem where you did forget to put the brackets on and you're like, I can't get my drill gun in there, call your cabinet coach. They can often give you some workarounds, but you're gonna have to either get a short, like a 90-degree drill or something. So you really want to remember to do this. It'll save you so much time down the road. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions, give us a call, 888-211-6482. As always, thanks for watching.